Hey, 16 people like Grandbob, my dad watching. It is Thursday. So, hey, Rob Browne with Brenden Martin. Got a great show in store for you today. Coach Matt Dean from Memphis. John Hartwell down in L.A., Sunbelt Conference meetings. University of Memphis head football coach Ryan Silverfield is going to join us about half past the hour. Really looking forward to this. You don't get many head coaches to come on shows. And he texted me yesterday after my conversation with Dr. Bill Hardgrave, president of the University of Memphis. Said he'd like to come on, and I said, absolutely. So we don't waste any time. He'll be on here with us, talk about building a culture, what it's like being a head football coach in today's ever-changing college football landscape. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android or iPhone. Pay attention. Sync us on any electronic device that you have.
Any.
Yeah, and it's going to be an awesome show, people. Hey, awesome. You will get out of life what you accept. The power of positive thinking, man. Every day.
Ooh, I got that book.
Yeah, that's right. And Earl Nightingale,
Norman,
that's another one.
Ask Buddy about his friends and Buddy.
Hey,
they were buddies. Right. They were friends.
The power, Earl Nightingale?
No, Norman Vincent Peale.
Norman Vincent Peale. Wow. All right.
That's a good story for Buddy. Yeah, that's a great story. I've got a couple of his books. Yeah, signed by him.
I would love to read them, and I'm telling you, I listen to those things every day when I'm riding and running and biking, whatever.
Oh, you got to read this.
Get ready, get notes, get pen and paper handy, because here we come. Dr. Arnoff, good morning down in the panhandle of L.A. in Panama City. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back.
Don't come back.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man, we've got Hollywood Squares going right now. Got to see Coach Matt Dean down there. There goes the other square. John Hartwell will be on in just a minute.
That would be fun to do, like with our. Oh, I think he's gone, or I don't know his background. We're gonna have to kill him.
Yeah, we'll just when he gets going. But hey, Matt, really looking forward to it. I got a text I was over there to see my new grandson. Well, they're new when they're babies. Alexander Robert Meadows over there at Hallie and Brooks's. They live right out next to Christian Brothers High School. And I went by there and I walked back out to my truck. I pulled my phone out of my back pocket. There's a text. It says, hey, talked to Dr. Hardgrave, said you'd like to have me on the show. Let me know when you want to do it. Ryan Silverfield. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like I said, it ain't easy to get a head football coach on your show. And I'm a big fan of his because he is always upbeat and positive, and I love people like that. I've got no time in my life for gloom, doom, despair, excessive misery, any of that crap.
Not going to do it. Matt Dean.
No, wait a minute.
Nothing.
I think I got a cool background. And you got a cool background, Brenden. You got a cool one, Matt, but none of us can compare to John Hartwell. I mean,
John Hartwell. How are things? Little vacation stuff. It's getting annoying.
I'm working, guys. Hey,
you know where he is, John. I recognize that. That is the spillway at Sardis Dam. Damn right.
Hey,
how you doing?
Doing well out here on the deck at the Sandestin Hilton on the final day of Sunbelt meeting. So I've got about 20 minutes with you guys, but appreciate y'all having me on.
Hey, always love it, John. And I want to get going. We're going to have Memphis head football coach Ryan Silverfield on here with us in a few minutes, but there's a lot going on in these meetings. Today's theme is pretty much the ever-changing landscape in college athletics. Give us a primer for what the big concerns are. And, my dad's always said, if you go to a meeting, a board meeting, anything, and you're mad about something, if you just go in there, hot and bothered, they're just going to blow you off and get in line with all the other people that are hot and bothered. Offer solutions. So John, take over.
Yeah, I mean, probably two of the biggest things we're talking about is the House lawsuit settlement, back pay on NIL, if you will, and what that's going to cost. Obviously, the Power Four schools are going to pick up the bigger brunt, but it's still going to be, expensive for everybody, not only playing catch up to past damages, but, going forward too, although, schools have the opportunity, just like they do with some of the other financial opportunities, you can opt in, going forward on how you want to pay some of this stuff out. But it's that's a big concern from a financial standpoint. Then the other thing, so I spent a couple hours last night with several of our football coaches, Bryant Vincent, our head coach, G.J. Kinney from Texas State, Clay Helton from Georgia Southern, just talking about the current recruiting landscape. And they said, the craziest thing is with the portal and with NIL, said the biggest recruiting job you're doing at the end of the year are the guys on your squad who have had good years and could potentially, go to an SEC or an ACC school. And they said that, that's the biggest recruiting component, especially from a head coach. Yeah, the head coach has got to be involved. When a transfer kid comes in, a portal kid, or JUCO kids, or even high school kids. But they said a significant amount of their time is re-recruiting the guys on the current squad list to keep them from bouncing someplace else where they can get more NIL dollars. So that's that continues to evolve, but that's something that we weren't really dealing with 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with you. Customer retention. Matt Dean, along that line, that makes the job of a head coach in any sport now even more difficult than it already is.
Good morning, guys. Good to be back on. And you're 100% right, Rob, but I want to congratulate John. I saw last night you guys got a huge commitment from a quarterback with one of the best or most interesting names in college football, Oklahoma, General Booty. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, his and it was a really big get for us because a lot of his dad, Abram Booty, was an outstanding wideout at LSU. Josh Booty is his uncle. We're really excited about getting him, and it's created a lot of buzz about the job that Bryant Vincent's doing. And as I reminded him at breakfast just a few minutes ago, I said, "Hey, this is all great, but remember the honeymoon is on. You have not lost a game yet." But exciting times, and we're excited to get General in the Warhawk family. It was interesting. I had several people send me some things last night. He is playing to the fullest hilt, though, already. These things are already pre-established. His name, I saw him sitting on a horse with a pair of underwear on that said "Booty" across the tail. So he's got some NIL deal with an underwear company.
Hey, look, there you go. I mean, that's capitalism, man. For both of y'all, and I'll throw this to John and then to Matt. I think you can go back in businesses. There are always trends. There's a shelf life of everything. I'm going to tell you right now, I keep going back with this is a can't miss stock. It's a can't miss again and again and again. Your customers keep losing their money. You're done. That's what's gonna break the bank on NIL and level this thing out. That's just my prediction. Am I nuts? Hadn't had enough coffee, or need more time down there in LA?
Yeah, I don't think it's going away. I think it will evolve over time. I think the pendulum may swing back a little bit, and you won't see these, astronomical figures you're hearing, especially on some of these skill guys. But I think, I know NIL is here to stay. You're not going to put that genie back in the bottle, and so we've got to all adapt to it. And I'll say this. There's no shortage of people out there beyond those of us in college athletics as administrators or coaches, and beyond the student athletes and prospective student athletes. but literally I'm getting probably 3 new pitches a week on, hey, here's a concept where you can earn NIL dollars, or your collective can earn NIL dollars for your kids. And it's taking existing business models, whether it's a credit card company trying to get you to switch, or trying to get you to get your donors and supporters to switch from one credit card brand to the other in credit card processing fees, and they'll give a percentage towards the collective. And shipping companies. I mean, there's a whole array of folks out there. You guys have probably seen this locally where you are. You go to a fast food place, you go to Subway and buy a lunch, and it's $12.29. And they say, hey, Mr. Martin, will you round up to $13 and give it to, United Way or whatever?
Yeah.
Now there's an opportunity to do that to your local Gator Collective or whatever that may be. So there's no shortage of people out there trying to be creative in finding different avenues to fund NIL opportunities.
Matt, that is where we're going.
No, and John's right. It's here to stay, and creativity reigns, especially at some programs where you may not have that big donor or surplus. Like, we're having Silverfield on the show in a little bit. I mean, Fred Smith and FedEx, that $25 million commitment over a period of time for Memphis Tigers is huge. And, they just signed Elijah Herring, a linebacker from Tennessee, and that's a great get for the Tigers. And a lot of publications think they're going to have a shot to be around a top 25 program this year.
Yeah.
A lot of it's going to be on, can we continue to grow the NIL collective? I think the balance, guys, is John's right. The NIL is here to stay, whatever form or fashion your institution chooses. It's going to be how the portal evolves too. I mean, now one of the things that's really tricky is it just seems like we have so many opportunities for people to leave. And John, it's very hard for a football, basketball staff, whatever, to manage that portal. It's a nonstop process. And, even, for example, you guys getting a quarterback this late in the system, that young man's got to acclimate to you guys as soon as possible. He's got to learn the playbook. There's certain things that are going down, and he missed spring practice, right? So it's tricky. But anytime you get a quarterback that was at Oklahoma and you're sitting in your shoes, you have to take that young man, especially if you like his tape. So I think it's like almost the equivalency of NFL free agency. I mean, we see this where kids are moving, players are moving. Essentially, you're trading guys without trading guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah. John, this is something, too, that when you build a culture, and I've had some guys actually say this, you in certain businesses, you can get upfront money to go from firm A to firm B, but you got a 5-year commitment. It's part of the contract. You pull out the first year, you owe 80% of that money within like 60 days. Is that happening now with any of these because it's not a contract if it doesn't benefit both parties. You know what I'm saying?
At least you would think that. Here's what's happening in actually our little informal roundtable last night. We talked about this. When NIL first started a couple of years ago, you had people doing year-long contracts. Well, people got burned doing year-long contracts when student athletes were jumping from one school to another. They may have had some off-the-field issues that blemished them. So you now have the contracts for NIL are evolving, but even the most advanced of those contracts in most cases are only 6-month deals now, because you've got so many variables, whether they're leaving your institution, anything else that may play in there. So you've seen that evolve already to where they're for a shorter term with those contracts.
What is what's going on with the there's no real contact with the NIL with the collectives and the schools, right? Like they're still separate entities. I thought at one point there was a a change in that, I thought, but then I don't really understand it all the time.
Yeah,
but,
I mean that is coming. And obviously the institutions or their representatives can have discussion with the collectives, but it can't be. Again, I say this knowing that my head's not buried in the sand. It is not supposed to be a recruiting inducement.
Right.
And these deals,
Yeah,
these
there we
deals
go.
are getting, these deals are getting cut long before a final commitment is made.
Guess who just chimed in on the text thread? Our old friend. I say, boy, you back off now. That's all. Everybody's coming here strictly for the education now. There's no shenanigans going on out there. You're bothering me, boy. Foghorn would dispute that. But hey, here's a question. I'm going to throw again to y'all. People are saying if they make them state employees, the athletes, just employees of the university, what about the private universities? I'll throw that to you, Matt. What would happen then? Because there's no governance there. And if they are, do they no longer go to school for the education? I mean, you can make a living with your hands, but you'll make millions with your mind. You might make billions if you're a great surgeon with your mind and your hands.
Well, we're in a different situation at Rhodes. Obviously, we're a private institution, have a really healthy endowment. But the reality is our platform for NIL Mogul is separate to the college's goals. And honestly, we're not making or breaking a student athlete's decision to come to Rhodes College on that NIL, sum. And those are things that, it's really truly what John said. For us, it's not an inducement. It's something they work on once they get here. They are making a commitment to Rhodes, a commitment to their athletic department. And then when they get here, they're trying to, make some contacts through that platform. And everything is managed through the platform. If they have a deal, it goes through the platform and it, talks about all the things of, the tax education, everything and so forth. But we're in a much different situation. Now, there are some really, really fine football, basketball programs at private institutions. But, there's a lot of the private institutions are really endowment based.
Yeah.
So a lot of the NIL may not affect their future in terms of deferred maintenance or continuing to build beautiful buildings. But I do know some state institutions, man. I mean, some of those donors are so crucial to the brick and mortar process that we always talk about how is this robbing Peter to pay Paul? And John will know more about that than I do.
John.
Yeah, and I do think this. In our meetings the last couple of days, I do believe there's a concerted effort to, even though, you call it revenue sharing, call it whatever you want to, but a concerted effort to avoid employment status for student athletes. And it makes a lot of sense on both sides. Really, from the university side, if all of a sudden you're making student athletes employees, that absolutely blows up the tax exempt status, not only of the athletic department, but of the university as a whole. So that's one issue there. And then, while we've also got to protect, all of a sudden, if student athletes become employees, it's like you're a professional athlete, and there's nothing to stop coaches from basically putting a yellow card in Johnny's locker one day if he's gone over his last 25 at bats, or has given up 10 sacks in the last 3 games. And that's not the business we're in. I know this sounds far-fetched to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we're still in the education business. Although that has been stretched and skewed in some ways. But I think it's really important for us to keep that concept central to the discussion.
Yeah, it is, because the basketball, especially the one and doners, I mean, they come in, take some classes in the fall, and they enroll in classes for the second semester, but it kind of is a slap in the face to legitimate students. But you got to, I'm just afraid if they were to say they're going to play football for you, if they're not students there, the bond, that spiritual temporal connection, it's gone. So that's the danger of doing that. I totally agree with you. All right, let's switch gears. I want to ask y'all kind of some bigger questions. An athletic department, if they have a surplus, I mean, they're spending, say some of them 225 million. They have a surplus of 10 million. What are they supposed to do with that money? Just keep it in a money market, or can they give themselves bonuses? I mean, look, people work. How does that really happen?
Yeah, well, first off, those schools are few and far between. I mean, I haven't seen the data from the last couple of years, but I would say that there may be 10 or 15 schools who actually have a surplus, and most of them are not multi-millions of dollars.
Yes,
but in a lot of those cases, and this has been going on for a while, schools are making a goodwill gesture, or athletic departments are making a goodwill gesture back to the university, whether it's a donation to the library, whatever it may be, because there's going to be a day come where they're not going to have a surplus in a year, and they're going to need some help from the institution. So building that goodwill in those years they have a surplus is really important.
Matt, you're a private university. Your endowment's about $400 million and change at Rhodes. It's pretty damn good. That's a lot of money that's there. But, surpluses, like you said, there's a handful that have them. So you're spending to be competitive. What about the possibility in 2 or 3 years, half the sports we currently have? The NCAA holds national championships in 91 sports, men's and women's combined. College football is its own separate entity.
Well, I think we're possibly going that direction, no question. But you may not realize this, guys, because we talk about sports all the time, but there's a miniature crisis going on amongst universities and colleges enrolling kids right now. I mean, enrollment numbers are down. I mean, we are historically down in deposits at Rhodes College in my 33 years. We're the lowest we've ever had in enrollment. And for someone like us, that's our lifeblood. I mean, we're not scholarship. We have to have these students to help pay for everything we do budgetarily. So for us, it's about enrollment. And the cost of private education is through the roof. And that's problematic. Kids are not choosing us like they would in the past because of the value. And I mean, we can sell the education. And I have so many examples of student athletes that are doctors and lawyers now and very successful businessmen or women. But right now, they're questioning the amount of money they want to pay on an annual basis. It's really turning everything over in my world.
Yeah. Well, John, along that line, I've been told by people in higher education for several years that what happened in 2008 and 2009 with the economy, we had a drop in the birth rate. And they were saying in 2026 and 2027 could be some rough years. And that's going to cost, there's probably going to be some colleges that just disappear off the landscape. But I hear that, and then I look at these enrollments in the state universities, and they're still massive. You think they're going to have students do like the athletes did, stick around for 7 or 8? Hell, that guy at Miami's been there 9 years. I mean, he makes Blutarski in Animal House look like a scholar or Tommy Boy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to change much, but I do. I mean, there clearly are some institutions out there that are having financial problems due to declining enrollment. And I think, the nationwide trend is, even if you're, staying level in enrollment numbers, you're doing well, because the national, move is a decline. But especially, when you look at athletics and people to spend, depend on a student athletic fee, that plays a significant component in there too, because that's a revenue source for athletics that potentially has been reduced.
Yeah, John, look, I know you got to get on to meetings down there, but God, what your background? I'm like, what am I doing here in Memphis? I want to be down there. That the golf, And you can always tell when there's Yankees down there. Like, let's go to the ocean. You're like, huh? It's the Gulf. I mean, as Will Johnson, our good friend in Mobile, says, Browne, when I lived in Memphis, I didn't eat seafood very often, unless it's fresh, on pellet ice or something like that. But you're going to have a great time down there. Tell people how they can get out and reach out to you and keep up with you. And always thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your time with us. It means a hell of a lot to us.
Yeah, great to be on with you guys. You can follow everything we've got going on in Monroe at ulmwarhawks.com. My Twitter, John_Hartwell. A lot of great things going on. As mentioned, we're excited about getting General Booty on board, to help our quarterback room grow. And, the one thing I'll say out of our meetings, our Sunbelt meetings here the last 2 or 3 days, we have challenges, but we work in what I would argue is the greatest industry in the world. You've got to adapt and change, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, and enjoy being able to come on with you guys and discuss what's going on in college athletics. And you guys have a great day.
Hey, you do too. I don't think it'll be hard for you too, but love the insight. You got people asking a lot of questions, so we'll do it next week. Look, this next guest, man, I want to thank you so much, Coach. And this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm here in Memphis, and I walk out after meeting my brand new grandson. Of course, they're all brand new. Alexander Robert Meadows, and I'm out there, and I get my text, and it's a text wanting to be on the show. It says, Ryan Silverfield, you talk to Dr. Hargrave. That just doesn't happen. That's like winning the lottery. Head football coaches, it seems like in today's world, there's so many people. No. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And as a lifelong Memphian graduate of Christian Brothers High School, I'm an Auburn grad, but I always pull from Memphis. I remember Coach Dye speaking to the Touchdown Club 30 years ago, and he said, he got up there before he spoke. He said, all right, how many Ole Miss fans? How many Tennessee? How many Mississippi State? He goes, how many Memphis fans we got? He goes, every damn one of you needs to be a Memphis fan. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, I left Alabama after 9 years. I went to East Carolina, and nobody knew what a pirate was unless they'd watched, some pirate movie about Arkansas. He goes, everybody in that state became a pirate in my 6 years. We started going to Chapel Hill and winning. We went to Raleigh and we won. We went to Winston-Salem and won. And they were 48-18-1. I'm telling you, I love what you're doing at Memphis. I remember watching when you were part of that staff with Mike Norvell, and y'all won the AAC championship. You beat Cincinnati twice in 8 days. I was over here in Parkin at our hunting camp at the Cherry Farm watching that, and we were all watching it, and we were so excited, and it was just chills. I had Memphis friends of mine like David Hager and Tom Dorian and people in tears watching that, how big a deal that was. You also coached a position that is the most important part of the team. That's the offensive line. But thank you so much for being on here with us. And I know you went to the Bowles School down in Jacksonville. Did y'all ever play Nice?
Yeah, we did.
You there?
We did play Nice. First of all, thank you guys for having me on. I'm glad I was able to jump on this morning in the hectic schedules of college football coaches, but thrilled to be on with you guys. But yeah, back in Jacksonville, we did play Nice back in the day. I was fortunate to go to Bowles, and we turned out some pretty good football players over the days. I certainly wasn't one of them.
Well, you've got a great coaching career going. Coach Matt Dean is on with us right now. He's over at Rhodes College as one of the associate AD, former AD, and he's got a son on the staff out at Oregon with Dan Lanning, Tyler. Man, what's going on in college football now? It's crazy. But I look at it, we just had John Hartwell, the AD at ULM on. They're having their Sunbelt meetings all. It's changing, but to me it's always darkest before dawn. We had the Memphis Touchdown Club meeting Monday night. Greg McElroy spoke about culture. I want you to talk about the culture. Dr. Hargrave texted me this morning, and he said something that I believe. He said, Ryan's players will run through a brick wall for him. You're building a culture, and you've got Seth Hennigan there of the top 10 quarterbacks returning. Most yards of anybody. 9 of the 10 have transferred at least 2 or 3 times. He's been at Memphis the entire time. He's going to have his own NIL.
Well, I think, you talk about culture, and everybody always says, what does that mean? It's a buzzword, right, that coaches throw out there, CEOs throw out there all the time. And, everybody says, well, what's your culture like? I think it's a direct reflection of the people within our program. And it starts with our young men, our student athletes, right? We've got 18 to 23-year-olds that care, that are bought into the way we do things, that are, understand the work ethic it takes, understand the way we behave in society, doing right in the classroom. And I think anybody that comes by and sees our program, Memphis gets a certain rep, but people come by now and they say, man, what a wonderful culture you have. And it's all the young men, and credit to them and the support staff and all those people. And I think it goes hand in hand, like, right, a 10-win season, top 5 in 108 years of our program history. And then you turn back around and have the highest GPA in program history. I think they go hand in hand. There's a direct correlation. So our guys understand the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And they know how to work. They know how to do it the right way. You obviously hope it correlates to wins on the football field. And certainly so far, we're moving in the right direction. Still a lot of work to be done. Going back to Seth Hennigan, he's a young man, right? Not really highly recruited out of high school. We got him as a 17-year-old here at Memphis. We were the only school in the country that over a 10-year period that started a true freshman. And Seth just turned 21 not too long ago. So he's a young man that's still just scratching the surface of what he's capable of. And it's crazy that's already been 4 years, but he's been dialed in. He's been bought into the way we do things. And he's a significant reason for our success and the way our culture is the way it is.
Well, when he said I didn't go to college for NIL, I went to get an education and all that endeared him to a lot of people. I love that. Matt, jump in here, man. I'm talking too much.
No, Coach, it's great to see you. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Coach one time. He came over to one of our basketball games, I think, this past year, Coach. But just congratulations on another great offseason. And we talk about this a lot. You guys hit it well in the portal. I think Elijah Herring was one of the most recent commits from Tennessee to linebacker. But you guys have done a great job of retaining athletes, and it probably helps with the new commitment from FedEx to the University of Memphis, I'm guessing. With Fred Smith and the NIL money. I'm guessing that's a big part of it too.
It goes in, really, you start looking a year ahead and you say, okay, how do you maintain the roster and the players you like? And so a lot of it is you got to lay the groundwork ahead of time and understand and have these conversations. So this summer, I'll be having conversations with our current juniors and their families and say, listen, when you have success this year, there's going to be other teams from the SEC, high school coaches, handlers, agents are going to reach out to you and tell you need to transfer. And I'm just telling you, if you sit back and do it the right way, good things will come to you, whether it's in the form of NIL, the ability to get drafted, to win championships, to graduate, to be a part of a culture and a program that's going to do it at a high level. And so we educate our guys. The guys that are in the system understand that. So, with that, the number one thing for us is roster retention, right? Keeping the right guys. You saw that with the Demir Blakeham's, the Rock Taylors, the Seth Hennigans, Cremonte Hamiltons, all these guys that have been part of what we're doing. Chandler Martins, Greg Rubens. I mean, I can go on and on, which is a good thing that we're able to maintain the players that are at the core of this program. And then everybody says, well, did NIL had a huge thing to do with it? Well, the NIL announcement was weeks ago. All those guys just said, hey, in late December and January, we're sticking through this thing. We're going to fight. We believe in what we're doing. We want to see this thing through. And that's what I'm appreciative of. Obviously, tremendously excited and appreciative of the commitment from FedEx and the Smith family. And it certainly will have a lot of significance going forward. But we'll always build it from the ground up. We still believe in recruiting high school guys. We signed over 20 high school guys, which, as we know, is few and far between. A lot of these colleges aren't. We'll continue to develop those young men and see what's out there in the portal as we move forward.
Well, Coach, you talk about keeping players and then developing players. The offensive line, we have all kinds of people on here that cover a lot of schools around the country. It's so hard. In your conference, you've got 14, that's 70 starting offensive linemen. And most people will tell you there's maybe, again, I'm saying this to you, an offensive line coach. So it's like a doctor, some jerk in the gym telling an orthopedic surgeon, you shouldn't do that. It's bad for your knees. But you think about 7-on-7 camps. Everything's about the skill position players. But the offensive linemen, those are the guys that are usually your best man in your wedding. There's just something about them. And you get guys to come in there. And I heard Bobby Bowden say one time, I'd rather get a kid that's 260 or 270 in high school and build him up than get one that's 340 and try and get him in shape. Would you expand on that?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Coach Browne. Now, these guys coming from high schools are getting bigger and bigger. I don't know what's going on, but I'd rather take those guys. I look back. We had a kid named Dustin Woodard. We were his only offer out of high school. He was a 267-pound kid out of Arizona. Came to us and was a freshman All-American. I think by the end of his freshman year, he weighed 270 pounds, but was a freshman All-American. Probably had no reason or right to get drafted, but the Patriots ended up drafting him 6 foot 300 by the time it was all said and done. It was a 7th round draft pick, right? A kid named Dylan Parham, another young man that came to us as a tight end that was a 3rd round pick from the Raiders, right? So we believe in building up these offensive linemen. And guess what? You're exactly right, Rob. I don't know if you can find enough good ones. Everybody wants them. Everybody's there. They're still hot and heavy in the portal for looking for O linemen. Got great respect for that position, what it takes and what it entails. Hopefully we've got at least 8 guys that we can throw out there because you're going to need them throughout the season. But that's one of those positions. And you hear NFL coaches talk about it. You guys, anybody that, follows college football, nobody loves their offensive line. There's no such thing, right? I mean, maybe somebody loved the Cowboys offensive line in the 90s and, some of those days. But very few teams, love all 5 O linemen. But I think you can find a handful of guys that go out there, compete down and down out. It's huge. And I think we got a good core group right now.
Well, my insurance guy, Tom Dorian, started for the Tigers on the offensive line, and he's about as good a guy as you'll get. I'll put it this way. If I ever got in a jam, I'd want I'd want him on my side. But, Matt, jump in here. I do love the offensive line because I've seen what happens when you don't have it. It's like trying to have a restaurant when you don't have any food to sell. It doesn't work.
It's an evolving position too, Coach, because when I came to Rhodes 33 years ago, we were getting, and we're non-scholarship Division III, we were getting guys 215 to 240 on the line. And even us now in 2024, we're getting kids. Now, they're not as skilled or strong as some of your guys, but we're getting a lot of 275 and above guys, even at our level, and they're like gold bars. They're hard to get. And, every time I talk to our head coach, Rich Duncan, one of the things, we get a ton of skilled guys, but he never has enough offensive linemen. And kind of turning directions here, Coach, I noticed on your schedule, what a great opportunity to go to Tallahassee this year for you guys and play Florida State and Coach Norvell. Are you guys excited? I know it's one game at a time, Coach. I know it's preseason camp, but that's going to be a really cool thing, I think, for your program in the city of Memphis, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me go back, Matt. First off, appreciate everything you guys do at Rhodes. I've got a lot of respect for the Division III programs. I myself started my coaching profession at Division III school, so I know that the hard work you've been putting in Rhodes over the years. So, but good seeing you again as well this morning. And then, I'm going to give you guys a speak talk. We're worried about practices and training camp before we even think about beat North Alabama and Troy. So one game at a time approach. But yes, it is. Let's call it what it is. It is unique. This is something that when Mike got the job, I immediately said, listen, we got an opening. So do they. Let's see if we can make this happen. And it took some pushing and pulling and prodding from both sides. Look, they're paying us a lot of money to go down there and play, which is exciting as well. That we won't turn down over a check to go down there and see what we're capable of. Obviously, I've got tremendous respect for Coach Norvell and what he's done there. Everybody knew that once he left here, even the first couple of years were rough for him. We knew he'd get it turned around, and I wouldn't be in this seat if it weren't for him. So grateful for him. We continue to have a great relationship. Looking forward to getting down there to Tallahassee because it's going to be a heck of a game. I know they're going to pull out all the stops, and look, they'll be a top 5 program by the time we get down there for their game. But we're focused on North Alabama, and then we'll move on from there.
Right. No, I agree, Coach. No doubt. Yeah.
And, Coach, it is a tight fraternity of coaches that, I've noticed this, that the families, no one talks about what the families go through. Just outside, the hours that you put in. I remember talking to, Marcus Woodson was on the staff at Memphis, and my son Wilson and I were up in his office in Auburn back August of 2018, and we invited us up to staff meeting, and Kevin Steele was in there, and Rodney Garner, and Travis Williams, and all the guys. And afterward, we went down to his office, and my son Wilson graduated from White Station High School up here. And I noticed a sleeping bag up there in his office. I said, don't. He goes, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, you know what I'm saying? You're going to spend the night up there sometimes. And there's kid stuff all over the football complex down there because they're like going, you're going to live here. and your kids are welcome. I think that's really cool. Let's talk about that culture. One of my best friends, Joel Johnson, Burkholz Engineering. They built a lot. They built the basketball, the Laurie Walton complex. They built the indoor football. You probably met Joel wearing the hard hat with the pocket protector. Loves Memphis. Whit Thompson, Trip Thompson, Bobby John, all these friends of mine. They're going, I wish we could go over there and just meet you. They are all asking about you, but talk about that.
Well, look, you're exactly right. This profession, what it requires, it does. And I'm not sitting here to try to pat my back, but it goes to credit for everybody that's been in this. College athletics as a whole, and then college football, it requires a lot of work. In fact, if I could flip my Zoom camera around, I could show you I brought the dogs with me to work. They come with me quite often because they're in a whole lot of time. And so if I don't let them out, they come with me bright and early, and then they go home really late, even in the off season. So I got the dogs with me here at the office. So that's my family that hangs out with me. But yeah, you mentioned earlier, right, Matt? I know you mentioned Dan Lanning and guys like Marcus Woodson, guys that were at the core back in the day with me here that I still remain close friends with. But I think part of that has to be, I think coaches throw out the term family to sound cool, all that. But the reality of it, we spend more time in the office amongst each other than we do with our own families. And I think that's part of it. And we're not all best friends. We shouldn't be, right? I always tell our staff, it's okay I want you guys to disagree with me. I don't need a bunch of yes men. But at the end of the day, we got to be all people in the same direction. And that's part of a family, right? Everybody's got a few nuts, and I may be the nut of this Memphis football program family, and that's okay. But look, there's got to be some camaraderie. And I think you talk about the transfer portal for players and the ever-changing movement of players and rosters and trying to manage that and the egos and the characters and the variety of players. Well, guess what? It's no different than coaching staffs. I think someone said over 564 Division I coaches changed jobs here, and we weren't, shy from that either. We had some staff turnover, and that's the nature of it. With me being on my 9th year here, I understand it's part of the profession, part of the business. And we keep moving, trekking forward. So it's my job to maintain those relationships, not just within the locker room, but on our staff as well.
Yeah. And Matt, I think from being a head coach for 16 years and an assistant for 14, 15 others, it is a lifestyle that you commit to. And Coach, I don't know of anybody in business in what I do, what Matt does, what anyone successful does. It better not feel like work if you're going to be working those kinds of hours. But you talked about the culture. It's not unusual. If you've got a good staff, you're going to have guys, leaving every year. You got new guys coming up. What I'm seeing, I saw it happen at Cincinnati. We saw it happen at Miami. I remember Howard Schnellenberger when he was at Louisville. He had that voice, and he was talking before they played Tennessee in 1993, and he said, our theory was, half the players, half the population in America lives within a day's drive of the Louisville campus, and we're going to go out and get those players. And you got to have a dream, but without execution, it's just a dream. Let's talk about personally in the city of Memphis. There are a lot of people that went to a lot of schools, but I know a ton of people that went to different schools that live and do business in Memphis. And they're going, I want that university to prosper. Now, I knew Dr. Hargrave from his days at Auburn. And I'm going to tell you, Bobby Louder, nobody loves Auburn more than Bobby Louder. And when he got him to come in to be the dean of the College of Business, what he did down there was increase enrollment 47%. And for the first time ever, there were more students in the College of Business last spring than there are in the College of Engineering at Auburn. That just doesn't happen because you're lucky. He loves Joel and I met him at Char over there on Highland a couple of years ago for lunch. Here he is in a suit in June, walks from his office over there, and I said, did you walk through campus so you could mingle with the students? And he goes, of course. I love that. And he loves having you as his football coach. So let's talk about your personal kind of what's going on over there. I love it. I love the story.
Yeah, first off, obviously, Dr. Hargrave's done a tremendous job. I mean, he loves this university. He's poured in. He's been an excellent ally and friend of mine and a great partner to work with. And I've been fortunate. He's my boss. And He's been very good to me, and to be able to maintain that relationship, I think because we have mutual respect for each other and the way we do things, but people ask about that all the time. At Memphis, what is it, in college football, one of the things that gets lost is spirit, right? Everybody talks about, man, these players are getting paid and, what the NFL for 7 years. And I still enjoy the day-to-day being around the guys. So with this being my 9th year at the school, right, what happens is recruits come in, they're like, wait, you've been here 9 years? We haven't met anybody at any of these schools that's been remotely there that long. And even as an assistant, had the opportunities to go to a lot of the SEC schools, go back to the NFL as a position coach. And, I decided to stay committed and loyal to Memphis, and it worked out for me. And I'm not making any bones about it. Like it absolutely worked out for me. And it's allowed me now to go to my 5th year as a head coach. But, even when other people came calling in the past, I'm very happy here. You're right. I've built this is my 26th year of coaching. I think when you find a good thing, with the players or with the facilities, with the university, with the city that I love, I pretty much have a house on campus. That's, I moved out from Collierville to the campus. When I got the head coaching job, I said, look, I'm planting my roots right here. This is what I call home. And I'm fully invested, obviously fortunate to sign that new contract. So, look, we're going to keep doing this thing. But there's a lot of wonderful things about this. I've got so much love for this city, for this community, for this campus. All I want to do is see it succeed in every way, shape, and form.
Man, Matt, isn't it refreshing to hear somebody that has his attitude? I mean, that's why I was so excited. I told much of my friends, I said, this doesn't happen. A coach reached out to me. I know you had talked to Dr. Hargrave, but that just doesn't happen. That says a lot about your character. I will call you an HCI, high character individual. You don't have to do this, but I can tell you right now, judging by the responses I'm getting from people, they're going, damn, Memphis is very, very, very fortunate. They're not lucky. They're fortunate and blessed to have you in here. Matt, jump back in.
No, the city is very fortunate to have Coach. And I'll be honest with you, it's similar story for me. I thought I'd be in Memphis 2 or 3 years. And Ryan, this is year 33 for me. So there's something about this area, and the people really care. And listen, we know when it's not going well. I think the thing about coaching is we know more than people think or give us credit for. We understand because we're in the building every day. We're the ones that recruit these young men or women. We're the ones that are there trying to build a program, right? And you're a very stand-up guy, Coach. Early on in your coaching career, you had a couple injuries that may have affected seasons, but you're not talking about that. You're talking about next man up. And I really am hoping that the fruition pays off this year. And I don't want to jinx you, but I really like what you guys got in that building. I know we're going to talk about the first practice and not looking forward, but just excited for that. And, I was in coaching for 26 years as well. I've been in administration now for 7. And the thing that I miss the most, I don't miss the games as much as I miss the practice. And you mentioned like the interaction with the players on a day-to-day basis. That's what drives me nuts, not having that interaction, because that's really what keeps you at that long period of time is you coach a player, you develop a player, and then they come back 5-6 later and they're very successful. And it's a feeling that not many people get, Coach. And it's really hard to describe unless you've been in the profession.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt. It's those relationships. I mean, I absolutely love being around our guys. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I mean, they think I'm crazy because I'll gladly throw my cell phone and put it in a drawer and go down and hang out with the kids in the weight room. Not that I'm lifting any weights, just hanging out by them and watching them and just being around them because their passion, their energy, it's infectious and I love it. It keeps me young. It's allowed us to continue to grow the right way together and to be a father figure to so many of these young men. It's just been tremendous. You guys, I appreciate those kind of words about the city being fortunate, but I feel very fortunate to be here. And I've got so much gratitude to be the head coach here at Memphis, to interact with every single day. I don't take my job lightly. I don't think it's just about winning football games. I truly believe in my heart of hearts, it's my job to develop young men, to get them to graduate from college and to hope that they have success in life on and off the field. Maybe I'm old school for that approach, but I still believe that. And, you talked about, Matt, earlier, the trust in the process. Sometimes us as head coaches and coaches, we always wonder what it looks like. And man, a couple of years ago, people weren't real happy with our record. Neither was I. I was as pissed off as anybody in the country about our record. I was mad.
Yeah.
I was a crappy coach. I did a poor job. But I also knew that when we started a 17-year-old at quarterback, there was going to be some growing pains. And I mentioned that the other day in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like, sticking with a 17, 18-year-old quarterback and starting a true freshman, it wasn't going to be easy. But I don't think anybody would sit back and say, man, last year was a failure. And guess what? We want to be even better. No one has higher expectations for myself in the program than the guys within this. And look, I got accountable, and I'll improve as a head coach. And I hope I'm significantly better today than I was yesterday and last season, for sure.
Yeah, and one thing about you, Coach, is that when you speak to people, you can tell that you're sincere. Simmons Bank is really making a big commitment to the stadium here in Memphis. And my dad being an architect, he's right. There's not a bad seat in that stadium. There really isn't. And I remember November 1st, 2019, when ESPN Game Day came to Memphis on the four corners of Beale Street. ESPN people we have Reese Davis. I worked with him my first 2 years in TV. He said, I've still have never seen anything. There's never been a game day like that. And I remember that night when Memphis beat SMU, what it did for this city. And there are so many people who are starved to be a part of it. And I'll say something else. I think NIL is, I worked at Duncan Williams. I work at First Bank, Raymond James now. I worked at Duncan Williams for 12 years. And Jay Stubbs is one of my friends I worked with. His dad, Charlie Stubbs, was quarterback coach, offensive coordinator at Alabama with DuBose. And he had come from Thunderbird High School in Las Vegas, 5'7" receiver. 2 years, then 2 years on his Mormon mission, 2 more years, 6 years. And I'm like, how many concussions did you get, Jay? He goes, probably 7 I can remember. I said, but that's his NIL. And he does a lot of bond business down in Alabama. And when they see that A that he earned, even though he wasn't a starter or a star, and he worked his ass off all those years, didn't complain, got his degree, did things right, was a great teammate, had their back. That is the value of a college education. Anything worth having in life is worth working your ass off for. Talk about that, because if I'm talking to a kid and I am going in there in his office and I'm going, wait a minute, you went through that for 5 years. And the only time you ran on the field was to hug your family at senior day? Yes, sir. And you didn't complain. You got an exemplary record. You worked your butt off. You did a lot of stuff in the community, volunteering. We're doing business. That's NIL. That's what I believe it is.
Yeah, I think you sit back and go, there's no greater experience. I didn't even play college football, but I've been around the sport, college football since the age of 18 myself, and started coaching. I was a 20-year-old defensive line coach at Division III school. So there is nothing greater than, that locker room, being around those guys. But going back to what Matt talked about, just the camaraderie. There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than running out the tunnel, looking up in the stands. You go back to college game day. That's a memory I always will have, looking up, behind me and seeing what an amazing crowd, and just so fortunate, right? The Cotton Bowl game, seeing our fans, even the Liberty Bowl game this past, so many fans said that was so meaningful. And then we talk about these players and what it means to them. And, those are memories you can never take. And it doesn't matter how much money you're getting paid. There's nothing that will replicate it. It doesn't matter. You can't, you talk about these guys. You hear former boxers talk about, well, hey, once they're out of the ring, you can't go back and just go swing on somebody randomly unless you're Mike Tyson going back for a pay-per-view run on. But, a lot of our guys, right, if you're a linebacker, you can't just randomly go tackle someone down Get-Well, for no reason at all. But enjoy it while you can. And so those memories, you're exactly right. I mean, you work your tail off to be a college football player, and the amount they put in. And I think that's one of those things that people forget is they still go to class. They do what they're supposed to. They work their butts off. And they go out there and they leave it all on the field day in and day out to perform at a high level on the, only 12 guaranteed Saturdays now. Hopefully we have plenty more. But that's just part of it. And so I think, once you're done playing, you always remember, you remember certain plays, and that even if you didn't play, you sit there and you'll remember the locker room. You'll remember the stories. You'll remember the trips. And I talk to our guys all about it all the time, right? Night before games, man, enjoy being around each other because this room will never be the same. These relationships are worth their weight in gold. And you're exactly right, Rob. I mean, I think that's part of it, right? Enjoying those things, those aspects of college football, because guess what? They're few and far between. And very rarely do you get to gather around, a group of like-minded young men that have a common goal and want to see what we're capable of doing.
Yeah. And Matt, we just got a few minutes left, but I remember a great quote. I listened to a lot of motivation, deep thinking. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, said, "You cannot control external circumstances around you, but you can control what's in your mind and how you think." And you know what? I don't have time to be around negative people. I mean, I don't need your attitude. I've got my own. And if it isn't positive, you need to go back, get out of bed and do it again. Wake up every day. It's going to be a great day. Let's get after it. Matt, one final question. I know Coach has got stuff to do, and we'll wrap it up. But this is absolutely great, and we're blessed to have you on here. We got to do this again.
Coach, Saturday night I was at a wedding of one of your former players. I think a Holder, Evan Michael, it was back in your day. And it was interesting because he's there. Your former kicker, Jake Elliott with the Eagles, was there. Gabe Kuhn, one of your former offensive linemen, was there. And it just reminded me, I've been to some of my players' weddings, and one of the neat things, and you kind of talked about it, we always talk about what it means to us, but when you ask those players, when they leave and they come back, man, they miss the locker room as much as we miss having them in the locker room and that interaction. And it was pretty special. There was probably about 5 or 6 Memphis football players at that wedding. Robbie Young, I'm a good family friend with the Youngs. He played tight end for you guys. I think you coached his younger brother, Ryan, for a little bit in offensive lineman. So it's just really neat. The circle doesn't stop at the age of 22. It just expands,
There's no doubt about it. I talk about it. You go back to being able to get invited to former players' weddings. I knew Evan was getting married. You know why? Because Jake Elliott swung by and we were able to spend some time together on Friday. To me, that was great. I've seen Jake maybe on the sideline of a Temple game. We're up here, but to come back, go her around and continue to be able to accomplishments. What Gabe Kuhn's doing in the media industry has been so much fun for me. Yep. Sometimes we just talk just to check on each other, and that's part of it. And we got former players, and I think those relationships, I always said, a successful time at Memphis when I'm talking to recruiters 10 years from now that they're still keeping in touch, because that means, it doesn't mean necessarily they had to be an All-American or go play in the NFL. That meant that things went right for them here, and we had that mutual bond and respect, and they enjoyed their time here and enjoyed playing for us. And I think those, you can't put a price on that. And those are the relationships that you always remember. But yeah, you're exactly right, Matt. I'm glad you were able to see some of those guys, those former players, because those are hopefully I'm a little bit away from retirement, but I look forward to the day where I can have a retirement party and hang out with you guys and enjoy being just Ryan instead of Coach Silverfield. But those relationships are ones you maintain, and I love nothing more than than picking up the phone and calling or saying hello. And then Rob, going back to what you said, man, I agree. There's enough negativity in this world. There's enough negativity in college football. We talk about having a positive attitude in everything you do. It has to be. And I tell our guys all the time, that's the one thing we got full control over is your attitude. There's going to be external circumstances every single day you wake up. There's going to be something. I don't care if it's a flat tire or a girlfriend breaking up with you, but you get a chance to control your attitude when you walk in this damn building, and it better be right.
Absolutely, man. This has been solid gold. Only thing better if we had Elvis on stage with us right now, but love having you on. This is a reminder for people. Quit buying into the negative narrative. You control your thoughts, man, but there's a lot of great things happening in college athletics. University of Memphis coach Ryan Silverfield coming off a 10-3 record. Look to build. You're undefeated until you lose one, and that's on you, and you're going to do it. Great things are ahead for you. Coach Matt Dean, John Hartwell, Brenden Martin, everybody, thanks so much. Have a great day. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. We got Coach Tim Horton on with us tomorrow from the Air Force running backs coach. It's going to be a great day. Out of here.